In 2023, the wealthiest 1% of Americans controlled nearly 40% of the nation's wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom half of the population owns just 2%. It's hard to believe, right? But it's the truth. The gap between the rich and the poor has never been wider, and the most shocking part is that it keeps growing, year after year. You might wonder, why does it never seem to change? The problem isn't just that the rich get richer. It's that the system is designed to keep it that way. From laws that benefit the wealthy to education systems that leave the poor behind, the game is rigged. In this video, we'll dive into the secret strategies that make economic inequality a never-ending cycle. How do billionaires use their power to shape policies? Why does capitalism seem to fuel this divide? And is there any real way to break the cycle? Stick around, because we'll uncover the hidden truths behind the inequality that's never going away. Chapter 1: The Power of the Wealthy. Behind the curtain of influence. Economic inequality doesn't just happen by accident. It's actively shaped and protected by the wealthy. In fact, the richest 1% own almost 40% of the country's wealth, according to a 2023 report by the Federal Reserve. This power allows them to control the rules of the game. Lobbying is a key strategy. The rich spend billions every year influencing laws and regulations to keep their wealth safe. For example, in 2020, the top 10% of earners spent over $3 billion lobbying US lawmakers. These political donations are not just about charity, they are investments. They help to create tax cuts, deregulation, and policies that favor big business over the common good. Studies have shown that when the rich give money to politicians, they don't just want influence, they want results. And those results are often tax cuts and loopholes. So, while the poor work harder for less, the wealthy use their power to make sure the system stays tilted in their favor. The media also plays a huge role. It's not just about news coverage, it's about shaping public opinion. By controlling the narrative, the wealthy can make inequality seem like an inevitable outcome, not a system that needs fixing. When the ultra-rich spread messages about hard work and individual success, they mask the structural issues causing poverty and wealth gaps. Chapter 2: The Invisible Hand. How capitalism fuels the divide. Capitalism, in its purest form, thrives on inequality. While it promises that everyone has a shot at success, it's rigged for the wealthy. The concept of the invisible hand suggests that everyone's self-interest leads to the greatest good. But what happens when some players have far more power and resources than others? They get more, while everyone else gets less. In the US, the top 0.1% of earners have seen their share of national income grow by more than 400% since the 1970s. Meanwhile, wages for the average worker have remained stagnant. This is the very essence of how capitalism fuels inequality. The rich benefit from economies of scale, monopolies, and government subsidies that keep them ahead. Amazon, for instance, made over $26 billion in profit in 2021 but paid zero federal taxes. It's a perfect example of how capitalism can enable some to escape paying their fair share. The myth of trickle-down economics promises that wealth at the top will eventually benefit everyone. But studies consistently show that this simply isn't true. The wealth of the richest 1% isn't trickling down, it's flowing right back into their pockets. Instead of helping the economy, these policies help widen the gap between the wealthy and the rest of the population. Chapter 3: The Education Trap. How knowledge becomes a class divide. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer. But in reality, it often keeps people stuck in the same economic class they were born into. In the US, children in low-income families are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school compared to children from wealthier families. And the gap only grows at the college level. Wealthier families can afford tutors, private schools, and college prep courses, while those in poverty have limited access to these resources. A Harvard study showed that 60% of students from the wealthiest families graduate from college, compared to just 10% from the poorest families. This educational divide has long-term effects. Without a college degree, people are more likely to face unemployment or lower-paying jobs. The rich can pass on their wealth and knowledge to the next generation, creating a cycle of privilege. Meanwhile, the poor often remain stuck, unable to break out of poverty. Even when lower-income students manage to attend college, they face an uphill battle. Many graduate with huge student debt that takes decades to pay off. The average student loan debt in the US is now over $30,000. For many, this debt is a lifelong burden that prevents them from building wealth. If you want to dive deeper into how these issues play out, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned as we break down the bigger picture. Chapter 4: Automation and the Future of Work. Will the rich own everything? The future of work is here, and it's automated. Machines and artificial intelligence are rapidly replacing human jobs, and it's the low-income workers who are feeling the brunt of this shift. A report from McKinsey estimates that by 2030, up to 800 million jobs worldwide could be replaced by automation. These are the same jobs that many working-class people rely on for a living. But who benefits from this technological progress? Not the workers. It's the companies that own the machines. In 2020, the top 1% of US households owned more than half of all stocks, which means they directly benefit from the rise of automation. While workers lose jobs, the wealthy are becoming even richer, investing in tech companies that replace human labor. This creates a dangerous cycle. As automation displaces workers, they are forced to rely on low-wage, service sector jobs, which often provide little stability or benefits. Meanwhile, tech companies rake in billions. The gap between the rich and poor continues to grow, and the wealthy are more powerful than ever before. Chapter 5: The Myth of Social Mobility. Is the American Dream dead? The idea of the American Dream suggests that anyone, regardless of background, can climb the social ladder through hard work and determination. But the reality is much different. According to the Pew Research Center, Americans born into the lowest income quintile have just a 7.5% chance of reaching the top income quintile. That's a far cry from the idea of meritocracy. Factors like race, gender, and family wealth play a much bigger role in social mobility than many are willing to admit. Black Americans, for example, are far less likely to move up the income ladder than white Americans, even when they have the same education level. The racial wealth gap in the US is enormous, with white households having 10 times the wealth of black households, according to the Federal Reserve. The truth is, the playing field isn't level. For most people, their social class at birth determines their opportunities in life. The wealthy have the resources to ensure their children succeed, while the poor have to fight against a system stacked against them. The myth of social mobility is a comforting narrative that hides the real causes of economic inequality. Chapter 6: The Politics of Inequality. How government keeps the status quo. The political system is one of the main reasons why inequality persists. Politicians, especially those in power, are often beholden to wealthy donors and corporations that fund their campaigns. A 2014 study by Princeton and Northwestern University found that US government policies overwhelmingly reflect the preferences of the wealthy, while the views of the average voter have little to no impact. In practice, this means that policies that could reduce inequality, like raising the minimum wage, increasing taxes on the rich, or expanding healthcare, are often blocked or watered down. The rich have the power to keep taxes low and wages stagnant, ensuring that they maintain their wealth while the rest of the population struggles to get by. This political gridlock isn't just a matter of disagreement, it's a matter of interest. The wealthy elite have no incentive to change the system when it works so well for them. Politicians, who rely on donations and support from these wealthy interests, are unlikely to push for policies that challenge the status quo. As a result, economic inequality remains entrenched in the fabric of society, and the rich continue to get richer. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more insights. We'll continue to explore the hidden forces keeping inequality alive.